Intel lays off the hundreds of engineers in California, including chip design engineers and architects. Automotive chip design also gets the axe. The Intel has begun cutting jobs in California, part of its cost-cutting and restructuring strategy introduced by CEO Lip-Bu Tan. The move comes 2 months later than when the staff reduction were unavoidable, and the 50% to 20% of the company's staff would be laid off. Officially, Intel is eliminating the excessive management layers, but the CRN report indicated the company is surprisingly laying off the chip design engineers and architects. Additionally, the company is shutting down its automotive chip design, according to the Oregon Live. Among the job categories being eliminated are 22 physical design engineers and 3 physical design engineering managers and several logic and product development engineers. The company is also removing roles such as cloud software architecture and engineering manager, in addition to a position tied to business and product management, including a vice president of the IT and multiple technology strategy leads. Employees in California are engaged in the development of the CPU and GPU products. According to notifications submitted to the state, 107 employees based on the Intel Santa Clara headquarters will be laid off. The filing complies with the California One Act, which requires disclosure when 50 or more workers are affected within a 30-day period. Layoffs are scheduled to begin in July 15th. Impacted employees had been given either a 60-day notice or a shorter 4-week notice, paired with 9 weeks of the compensation and benefits. Intel is also exiting the automotive chip market. The division, which operated within the client computing groups and will be shut down. Intel's automotive business is based on Munich, Germany, and leveraging its approximated major European automakers and suppliers. Out of 2024 and 2024 to 2025, the unit is or was led by Jack West, a longtime Intel veteran, Intel fellow, and a former VP and Mobileye, to succeed in developing platforms for software-defined vehicles, SDV, and the Intel Automotive unit had autonomy over product strategy and customer engagement. Most employees in the unit are expected to lose their jobs as the company shifts focus on its core offering client and data center solutions. The cuts are part of Intel's larger effort to eliminate the layers of bureaucracy and improve the execution speed. And in an internal communication from April, and the Tan highlighted a shift in performance measurement, criticized the past predictive where the leadership was a success was tied to the size of the one's teams, and he stated that going forward, inefficient and impact with a smaller team will be Intel's ways of operation. I've been surprised to learn that in recent years, the most important KPI for many engineers at Intel has been size of their teams. Lipton were writing a letter to the employees back in April. Going forward, this is not the case. I'm a big believer in philosophy that the best leader gets most done with a few people. We will embrace the mindset across the company, which will include empowering our top talent to make a decision and take a greater part ownership of the key priority. Tan emphasized that leadership would be responsible for determining the best to align personnel changes with the company's strategic priority, which include laying off the 15 to 20% of each personnel. Earlier this month, it turns out that the company will lay off 52 to 20% of each staff, and as well as outsource a significant portion of marketing operation to Accenture, which is projected to use AI to communicate with Intel customers. Intel is committed to reduce spending by the $500 million this year and an additional $1 billion the following years. article. Another article. Intel appoints sales and engineering leaders. Now, appointment to align with the focus on delivering for customers and becoming an engineer-focused company. The Santa Clara, California, June 18, 2025, Intel Today announced a series of leadership points aligned with its focus on strengthening the customer relationship and become the more engineering-focused company. Greg Ernst, a respected sales leader with more than 20 years of Intel experience, has been named Chief Revenue Officer in addition to Srinivasan Ainingard, Zhang Dier, L. Guruchi, and Shailendra Desai are joining Intel the key engineering leadership roles. With significant opportunities ahead to strengthen our product offering and meet the changing needs of our customers, said Lip-Bu Tan, CEO of Intel. Greg Srini and JD and Shailendra are highly accomplished leadership with strong reputations across our ecosystem, and they will each play important roles as we position our business for the future. Ernst has been leading Intel Sales and Marketing Group (SMG) since May. He is known for customer-focused leadership with a deep understanding of the market and had held a wide range of global sales, marketing, and product development roles through his career. Prior to his most recent position, he led SMG across the Americas. Ernst continues to report to Tan. Iyengar has been named as VP and Fellow. He will lead a new Customer Engineering Center of Intelligence Excellence and join the Intel executive team, reporting to Tan. He joined Intel from the Cadence Design Systems, where he led global silicon engineering. Iyengar brings extensive experience and expertise in helping customers create best-in-class custom silicon, including a deep focus on hyperscale data center solutions optimized for key workloads. Allegrucci has been named VP of AI System on Chip (SoC) engineering. He will be responsible for managing the development of the multiple SoCs that will be part of Intel's AI roadmap. He joined from the Lane AI, an innovative startup where he led AI silicon engineering. Prior to joining the Lane, he spent 17 years in Apple, where he oversaw the development of more than 30 SoCs used across many of the company's flagship products. Desai has been named the VP of AI Fabric and Networking. He will lead the development of innovative SoC architectures for Intel's AI GPUs and forward-looking roadmap. He joined from Google, where he led silicon engineering, architecture design, and platform solution across multiple mobile SoCs. He was previously the founder and the CEO of the Provino Technologies and Technologies, an SoC startup acquired by Google in 2021. And both Allegrucci and Desai will report to Sachin Katti, Intel's Chief Technology and AI Officer. Okay, next one is next is DRAM prices has jumped by 20% for the second month in a row, and the surging demand is likely due to the stockpiling. As companies are buying as much memory as they can during the 90-day window on tariffs. The average market prices for DRAM and NAND chips increased for May, with the price of the 8GB DDR4 chips now at $2.10, going up by around 27% from the $1.65 in April. Prices for these chips hovered at around $1.37 in March, as meaning this is the second time in a row that prices jumped by over 20%. According to the Business Korea, these price surges were likely caused by many companies stockpiling memory chips to get ahead of tariffs, especially as President Trump announced a 90-day grace period of these import taxes. The last major price movement for the chips were in September and November, which showed a 70% and 20% downward movement respectively. They have then remained stable from December until April. Then Trump shocked the world with the Liberation Day tariffs during the early April 2025. As Trump then said the day after his massive announcement that computer chips are exempt from the sweeping taxes, at least temporarily. These import taxes were supposed to take effect in full force a week later, but he decided to pause them in 90 days at the last minute. Despite that, Trump said that he would put tariffs on chips, so even you are making computers inside the United States, your cost would go up. Because of this, companies are stocking up on memory chips, especially the cheaper DDR4 chips destined for more affordable products that cannot absorb or adjust to increased cost. It follows the news the DRAM manufacturers Samsung, Micron, and SK Hynix are abandoning the DDR4 production due to the increased competition from China. Companies like CXMT and Fujian, Hui, and Jinhua have been undercutting the prices to the point where their brand new DDR4 products are cheaper than the big three's refurbished memory, and it a surprise development. CXMT announced that it will also end DDR4 production at around the same time at the behest of the Beijing. This drying up of the supply, compounded by the increase in demand, means that companies should expect to pay more for DRAM and NAND chips, and unless the global tariff situation and manufacturing of the DDR4 memory stabilized, we expect the cost of these chips to keep on rising in the incoming months, eventually impacting consumers. Okay, next one is top Chinese memory maker expected to abandon DDR4 manufacturing at the behest of the Beijing. CXMT just reached peak DDR4 production, but is now prioritizing the DDR4. The top Chinese DRAM manufacturer, the Changshin Memory Technology, and reportedly phased off the DDR4 memory for several species by the middle of the next year. According to the DigiTimes, the company is making the sudden shift to accommodate the directive of the Chinese Communist Party, and especially as Beijing is pushing the countries to take the global lead in AI and cloud infrastructure. In line with this, CXMT is also believed to be prioritizing the work on HBM technology, targeting the validation of HBM3 chips by later this year. This announcement caught the many in the industry off guard, especially as the company had just began mass production of the DDR memory in late 2024. This ramp up in capacity, paired with aggressive pricing, has caused leading memory manufacturer Micron and Samsung and SK Hynix to end the product of the DDR3 and DDR4 chips by late 2025. But as the Chinese government focuses on AI to compete against the US technological supremacy, Beijing is likely directing its local tech giant to give their support. Because of this, industry analysts anticipate CXMT issuing an end of the life notice for HDDR4 as early as the third quarter of this year. Despite that, the DDR4 supply seemingly dried up, with the 8GB chips jumping in price by 150% because of the lack of the supply. The overall market is heading toward DDR5 production to accommodate the demand for a newer device, but a few DDR4 manufacturing lines will remain. DigiTimes Asia said that CXMT will keep making it for a giga device to satisfy demand for consumer memory, while Samsung and SK Hynix will keep on pricing them using the 22G nanometer mode. nanometer nodes. That means that they do not require EUV tools, which are better utilized to produce newer chips. Despite CXMT's success in DDR4 memory, its DDR5 chips reportedly still face some issues. It's been reported that some of its latest samples have failed some tests with the memory chips become unstable and they hit 60 degrees Celsius and up, and some 25 degrees lower than the up to 85 degrees Celsius that Samsung chips can operate in. There is also doubt whether the CXMT's DDR5 memory would perform as expected in the zero temperature, and this likely would not be an issue with most users though. Okay, thank you. Next is turning supply chain uncertainty onto opportunity. The modern supply chain faces the constant upheaval. Geopolitical tensions, resource scarcity, and climate events are the new normal. Moving beyond reactive measures, forward-thinking leaders must embrace uncertainty as an opportunity. What began as a pandemic-related temperature disruption has evolved into a continuous stream of interconnected challenges affecting everything from semiconductor production to basic commodity. As a forward-thinking supply chain leader, you must recognize a fundamental truth. The exceptions have become the normal, rethinking of the role of uncertainty. The traditional linear planning models that assumed predictable conditions are increasingly obsolete today. These models rely on historical data to forecast future needs, but these projections become unreliable when the foundation shifts dramatically. Your organization needs to embrace this mindset shift from the reactive damage control to proactive resilience building. The tradition that requires you to view the uncertainty not as a threat but as a catalyst for innovation. When you anticipate disruption rather than fear it, you create a space for creative problem solving. Companies that embrace certainty gain competitive advantages through the faster adaptation cycles and more agile operation. This perspective transforms your role from a crisis manager to a strategic opportunity identifier. The strategy planning for resilience. Scenarios planning enables you or organizations to model the multiple potential futures instead of betting on a single problem. Practical implementations combine quantitative modeling with qualitative the insights into market dynamics and competitive forces. In scenario planning, your organization should use the visualization tools to identify the key uncertainty drivers and develop plausible scenarios with varying probability weights and define trigger points that signal when to activate alternative strategies. This collaborative approach strengthens supply chain resilience by distributing decision-making authority. Visualization of multiple futures for proactive decisions empowers you to navigate uncertainty strategically. The automation as a stability driver. Automation introduce operational consistency that minimizes the impact of the disruption. Manufacturing environment with higher automation levels demonstrate greater stability during the labor shortage and demand fluctuations. Recent automation breakthroughs have dramatically improved manufacturing resilience. Smart production lines with self-diagnostic capabilities can preemptively address maintenance issues before they can downtime. Computer numerical control machines enables price adjustment to materials, while automated assembly lines reduce worker fatigue for repetitive tasks. So you can integrate automation by starting with modular solutions that address specific pain points, prioritizing prioritizing investment based on a disruption vulnerability analysis, developing comprehensive training programs for your existing workforce, and establishing clear metrics to measure automation ROI beyond cost reduction. These automation breakthroughs enables your supply chain to respond more efficiently to unpredictable challenges while maintaining production continuity. Instead of viewing the automation merely as a cost-cutting measure, you should recognize its role in creating adaptable operations that quickly pivot during disruption. Manufacturing automation for a swift response enables your supply chains to adapt to unpredictable operational challenges efficiently. The AI across the supply chain, artificial intelligence is revolutionizing the supply chain management by enhancing end-to-end visibility and improving forecast accuracy. The AI systems support real-time decision-making by autonomously adjusting the production schedules and logistics routes based on changing conditions. Smart warehouse management system. So when you view AI as a collaborative intelligence, your organization gains significant advantages in disruption response time. The most advanced supply chains are moving from reactive to proactive management, using real-time data insight to make decisions within a minute rather than a day. Real-time decision intelligence frameworks are creating unprecedented visibility across the complex global networks. The intelligence manufacturing systems, the factory of the future, leverages the interconnected intelligence system that continuously optimize production processes. This system combines IoT sensor and machine learning to create environments that adapt in real time to changing conditions. Intelligence factory systems can autonomously reconfigure production lines when a disruption occurs to maintain output. You can incorporate these systems by implementing targeted pilot projects and focusing on data integration. In the factories of the future, use human AI collaboration to address critical manufacturing skill gaps while boosting productivity. The industry-wide disruptions and environmental consideration. Supply chain fragility extends beyond the individual companies to affect the industries and communities. Disruption in the infrastructure and utility sectors have particularly severe consequences for essential services and public safety. So when primary supply chains collapse, organizations often resort to less sustainable alternatives that increase environmental impact. As a forward-thinking leader, you should recognize that environmental responsibility and operational resilience are complementary goals rather than competing priorities. So the critical resource management protocol highlights the intersection between the infrastructure, resilience, and the community well-being. Looking ahead, the most successful supply chain leaders have shifted from the reactive to strategic thinking about disruption. By leveraging scenario planning, automation, and AI and the intelligence system, you can transform uncertainty from a threat to a catalyst for innovation and growth. The future belongs to a company that view vulnerability not as a problem to solve, but as an environment to thrive within. So this perspective enables you to build operations that are resilient against disruption and strengthens by it. So creating the competitive advantage that extend far beyond the short-term crisis management to establish a sustained market leadership in an increasingly unpredictable world. Okay, thank you. Next one. The end of an era. The therefore production of essentially end this year. Micron, the final domino to fall. DDR4 chips are going to be even more expensive later this year. The Micron finally sent official notice to its customers that each DDR4 memory will finally reach end of life EOL. So according to the DigiTimes, the shipment from these memory chips will gradually decline over the next 6 to 9 months. The top memory chips makers have been planning to end DDR4 production due to increasing competition from Chinese memory makers that have been flooding the market with more affordable alternatives. Now, with Micron confirming its plan to shelve the tech, the world 3 manufacturers are off the board. The Samsung said in April that it's already going to stop making DDR4 chips this year and focus instead on the higher and more profitable DDR5, LPDDR5, and HBM memory. And even though Chinese memory maker CXMT just reached peak DDR4 production, reports say that it's also pivoting toward DDR5 and HBM chips. So despite multiple companies ending production of DDR4 memory, demand is still seemingly high for these chips. DDR4 prices continue to surge in the open market, with the rate jumping by as much as 50% in May. Micron Chief Business Officer Sumit Sadana told DigiTimes that the company expects DDR4 to suffer from major supply gaps, and that it could get to the point and DDR4 becomes more expensive than DDR5 or LPDDR5 chips. So because of this, Micron is urging its customers to upgrade the next generation memory, especially as these chips are becoming more affordable. Nevertheless, the company will reserve some DDR4 and LPDDR4 supply for its long-term customers in automotive industry and network applications, industries that prioritize the reliability and steady supply over the faster speed. On the other hand, PC and mobile services devices are expected to have a modest increase in demand, especially as AI features have become more commonplace. This would require an increase in base memory configuration. For example, Apple finally ditched an 8GB MacBook Air, and which it famously once said is equivalent to 16GB of the RAM in Windows, so that it should have enough memory to run Apple Intelligence. Smartphones have now also started moving from the usual 8GB of RAM to 12GB and 16GB for some models. So we expect mainstream DDR4 production to eventually come to an end, especially as hardware manufacturers increasingly switch to DDR5, which offer better margins. However, there is still massive demand for DDR4 memory, meaning it will be harder and more expensive to find these chips. Smaller players will likely step in and take advantage of this opportunity, but they might not have the scale and experience that the major memory chips manufacturers have, resulting in a drop in quality and long-term reliability. Okay, thank you for today. Thank you for your time. See you next time.